There comes a moment in every spiritual seeker's journey when the soul begins to outgrow its physical vessel. This phenomenon, what I call the soul's point of saturation, occurs when your consciousness has expanded to such a degree that your current energetic structure can no longer contain it. Think of your body as a cup and your evolving soul as water being continuously poured in. Eventually, that cup reaches its capacity and the water begins to overflow. This overflow isn't a failure. It's a sacred signal that transformation is imminent. Many of you reading this may already be experiencing the symptoms of this soul expansion without recognizing them for what they truly are. The body speaks a physical language when the soul is outgrowing it. You might find yourself inexplicably exhausted, not from physical exertion, but from simply existing in your current form. This fatigue differs from ordinary tiredness. It's a bone-deep weariness that sleep doesn't seem to touch. Another common sign is the profound sense of non-belonging that suddenly permeates your life. Places, relationships, and activities that once felt like home now feel foreign, as if you're a visitor in your own life. You may catch yourself thinking, "I don't fit here anymore," yet struggle to articulate why or where you might fit instead. Perhaps most telling are the unexplained emotional releases, tears that come without warning or apparent cause. These aren't tears of sadness in the conventional sense. They're the physical manifestation of energy being released, as your system attempts to create space for your expanding consciousness. The soul's expansion follows universal principles that transcend cultural and religious boundaries. In the early 20th century, Edgar shared insights about this process, describing it as the awakening of the spiritual body within the physical. His readings suggested that this was not a supernatural occurrence, but a natural evolution of human consciousness, one that happens when we've reached a certain threshold in our spiritual development. This saturation point represents a crossroads in your spiritual journey. The discomfort you feel isn't punishment or regression. It's the necessary friction created when a higher vibration begins to displace a lower one. Your expanded soul is literally becoming too energetically dense for your current physical and emotional frameworks. The body, with its intricate nervous system and electromagnetic field, has adapted to operate at a certain frequency throughout your life. When spiritual awakening accelerates, this frequency must increase, sometimes rapidly. The discomfort arises from resistance to this change, much like muscles ache when stretched beyond their accustomed range of motion. What many don't understand is that this process is both natural and necessary. Just as a seed must crack its shell to grow into a plant, your consciousness must break through its current limitations to evolve. The soul doesn't expand randomly. It does so when you've learned and integrated all you can at your present level of awareness. Many spiritual traditions have recognized this phenomenon under different names. Buddhists speak of the death of the ego before enlightenment. Christian mystics describe the dark night of the soul that precedes union with the divine. Indigenous wisdom traditions often reference a symbolic death and rebirth that marks the passage into deeper spiritual understanding. Despite these different terminologies, the essence remains the same. The soul expands beyond what the current self-identity can encompass, creating a necessary crisis of transformation. This crisis, while uncomfortable, serves a sacred purpose. It's preparing you for a quantum leap in consciousness. Each symptom, the fatigue, the sense of alienation, the spontaneous tears, is actually clearing away what no longer serves your expanding awareness. The most vital understanding during this phase is that you're not losing yourself. You're becoming more fully yourself. What's falling away isn't your essence, but the limitations you've outgrown. The discomfort arises not because something is wrong, but because something profound is awakening. As your soul continues to expand, the very structures of your life may begin to shift. Relationships may transform or dissolve. Career paths may suddenly seem misaligned with your deeper truth. Beliefs you've held for decades may disintegrate in the light of your growing awareness. This dismantling is not destruction, it's preparation. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve completely in its chrysalis before reforming as a butterfly, your old self must give way for your emerging consciousness to take form. How then do you navigate this critical threshold? First, by recognizing it for what it is. Understanding that your discomfort is not pathological but transformational changes your relationship to the experience. Rather than resisting the symptoms, you can begin to see them as signposts on a journey of profound awakening. As the soul continues its expansion beyond the body's vibrational capacity, we encounter a profound and often challenging phase, the systematic dismantling of who we believe ourselves to be. This collapse of the former identity isn't a punishment or regression. It's a necessary clearing to make room for your emerging consciousness. When your soul grows beyond its previous boundaries, everything built upon limited awareness must naturally fall away. This process often begins subtly. Perhaps you notice increasing discomfort with labels you once embraced, or roles that previously defined you. The career title that once brought pride may suddenly feel confining. Family dynamics that shaped your self-perception might begin to chafe against your expanding awareness. This dissolution occurs because expanded consciousness cannot operate within contracted identity structures. Think of it as attempting to run sophisticated modern software on an outdated computer. The system simply cannot support the new capabilities trying to express themselves through you. What makes this phase particularly challenging is that the old identity doesn't dissolve all at once. Instead, it often happens in layers, like the peeling of an onion. Each layer revealed and released might bring grief, confusion, or a temporary sense of emptiness. You may find yourself wondering, if I'm not that person anymore, then who am I? This question marks the threshold of profound spiritual transformation. One of the most striking manifestations of this identity collapse is the natural reorganization of your social world. Relationships that vibrated in harmony with your former self may suddenly feel discordant. You might notice people who once seemed central to your life gradually drifting to the periphery, while new connections form with those who resonate with your emerging frequency. This relationship reshuffling isn't something you need to force or manage. It happens organically, as if the universe itself is rearranging your connections to support your expansion. The people, places, and activities that can no longer contain your growing light will naturally fall away, creating space for what aligns with your authentic becoming. During this phase, you may experience what seems like a series of losses. The loss of clear identity, familiar relationships, established careers, or belief systems that once provided security. Yet, what appears as loss is actually liberation. Each aspect of self that falls away removes another limitation on your expanding consciousness. The physical body itself registers this identity collapse. You may experience unusual symptoms that defy conventional medical explanation: shifts in energy levels, changes in food preferences or tolerances, altered sleep patterns, heightened sensitivities to environments, sounds, or energies. These physical manifestations are the body's attempt to recalibrate to your soul's heightened vibration. This recalibration often creates a feeling of being between worlds, no longer fully identified with your old self, yet not fully embodying your new consciousness. This liminal space, while uncomfortable, is rich with potential. It's the fertile void from which your authentic self emerges. Resistance during this phase only intensifies the discomfort. Many make the mistake of trying to cling to disintegrating identities or rebuild collapsing structures. This is like trying to reassemble a cocoon around an emerging butterfly. It not only fails, but potentially damages the unfolding process. The wisdom here lies in surrender, not a passive resignation, but an active allowing of what needs to fall away. Each identity construct, emotional pattern, or belief system that dissolves creates space for your expanded consciousness to express itself more fully. Throughout human history, wisdom traditions have recognized this phase of spiritual development. Indigenous cultures incorporated vision quests and rites of passage that symbolically enacted the death of the old self. Mystery schools taught initiates that certain aspects of identity must be sacrificed at the threshold of higher knowledge. Even modern psychology acknowledges that growth requires the dissolution of outdated self-concepts. What these traditions understand is that identity is not fixed, but fluid, not a solid structure, but a temporary vehicle for consciousness. As consciousness expands, the vehicle must transform or be exchanged for one that can carry your greater light. During this collapse, you may experience moments of profound disorientation as the familiar landmarks of your identity disappear. You might find yourself unable to answer basic questions about your preferences, goals, or beliefs with the certainty you once had. This uncertainty isn't regression. It's the necessary emptying that precedes authentic knowing. The most challenging aspect of this phase is often the loneliness. As your old identity dissolves, you may feel increasingly isolated, unable to communicate your experience to others who haven't yet encountered this threshold. This isolation, while painful, serves a purpose. It turns your attention inward to the emerging wisdom that can only be found in the depths of your own being. Remember that this collapse isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. The universe isn't taking away your identity, it's removing the limitations that prevented you from experiencing the fullness of who you truly are. Each aspect that falls away creates space for more light, more awareness, more authentic power to emerge. As this process continues, you'll begin to sense something new taking shape within you, not a rigid identity constructed from external references, but a fluid presence anchored in your essential nature. This presence doesn't need labels, roles, or external validation. It exists in perfect resonance with your expanded soul, allowing your light to shine without obstruction or distortion. The collapse of your former identity isn't the end of your journey. It's the necessary clearing that makes way for the emergence of your authentic self and the activation of your higher capacities. As challenging as this phase may be, embracing it fully is embracing the path to genuine freedom. When the soul has expanded beyond the physical form and the former identity has been sufficiently dissolved, we enter the most profound phase of spiritual breakthrough, the activation and birth of what mystics throughout the ages have called the light body or spiritual body. This isn't merely a metaphorical transformation, but an actual shift in how consciousness inhabits and expresses through form. The light body represents a higher octave of human existence, a state where consciousness no longer operates primarily through the dense mechanisms of thought and emotion, but begins to function directly through frequency and vibration. This shift marks the transition from being primarily identified with form to experiencing yourself as the formless awareness that animates all creation. As this activation occurs, you'll notice a fundamental change in your experience of reality. The separation between inner and outer begins to dissolve. What once seemed like isolated events in your personal life now reveal themselves as threads in a vast tapestry of interconnected consciousness. Synchronicities increase exponentially, not as random coincidences, but as the natural language of a universe that responds directly to your vibrational state. The emergence of the light body doesn't mean abandoning the physical form. Rather, it represents the physical body's transformation into a more refined vehicle capable of holding and transmitting higher frequencies of consciousness. This refinement manifests in tangible ways. Many report extraordinary sensations, tingling at the crown of the head, vibrations along the spine, spontaneous waves of bliss or energy moving through the body, and a distinct lightness that makes even the most ordinary movements feel graceful and effortless. This transformation affects every aspect of your being. Physically, you may notice changes in how your body processes energy. Food cravings shift dramatically, often toward lighter, less dense nutrition. Sleep patterns transform. You may need less sleep, yet paradoxically feel more energized. The body's natural healing capacities heighten, sometimes resolving long-standing health issues that had previously resisted treatment. Perceptually, the activation of the light body opens doorways of awareness that transcend ordinary senses. Colors may appear more vivid, sounds more nuanced. Many begin to directly perceive energetic fields around people, plants, and places. Others develop heightened intuitive capacities, knowing things without rational explanation, sensing events before they occur, or receiving guidance that bypasses intellectual processes entirely. This shift in perception isn't the acquisition of supernatural powers, but the natural unfolding of latent human capacities that have always existed beneath the threshold of conditioned awareness. As the light body activates, these capacities emerge not as special gifts, but as the birthright of expanded consciousness. The most profound aspect of this transformation, however, is the shift in how you experience yourself as a conscious being. The thinking mind, which once dominated your experience, begins to take its proper place as a tool rather than the center of identity. Thoughts continue to arise, but you no longer identify with them completely. Instead, you recognize yourself as the vast awareness in which thoughts appear and dissolve like clouds in an endless sky. Similarly, emotions no longer define or overwhelm you. They move through your field of awareness like weather patterns, fully experienced yet not mistaken for who you are. This creates an unprecedented freedom, the capacity to feel everything completely without becoming entangled in emotional states that once would have consumed your attention for days or weeks. As the light body activates, you begin living from what could be called pure consciousness, a state where awareness itself becomes the primary driver of your existence rather than the conditioning of past experiences or the projections of an imagined future. In this state, action arises not from mental deliberation or emotional impulse, but from direct perception of what each moment calls for. This shift transforms your relationship with time itself. The anxious preoccupation with past and future diminishes as you settle more deeply into the eternal now, the only moment in which life actually occurs. This present moment awareness isn't a static state, but a dynamic flow that paradoxically encompasses both profound stillness and spontaneous movement. The activation of the light body also initiates a profound recalibration of your energetic boundaries. The rigid sense of separation between self and other gradually dissolves, revealing the underlying unity of all life. This doesn't mean losing your unique expression. Rather, it's the discovery that your uniqueness exists as a specialized focus within a unified field of consciousness. This recognition of unity has profound implications for how you move through the world. Compassion ceases to be a cultivated virtue and becomes your natural response to suffering, as you directly perceive others as extensions of your own awareness. The artificial divisions that fuel conflict, nationality, religion, race, gender, status, lose their power to separate as you recognize the same light animating all beings. Fear, which once shaped so many of your choices, gradually subsides as you realize that what you truly are cannot be threatened or diminished. This doesn't create recklessness, but a profound trust in life itself, a recognition that even challenges and difficulties serve the evolution of consciousness. The light body carries its own wisdom and intelligence that often transcends the limitations of rational thinking. You may find solutions arising spontaneously to problems that once seemed insurmountable. Creative insights flow more freely. Learning accelerates as knowledge transfers directly through resonance rather than mere intellectual processing. This state represents what many spiritual traditions have pointed to as enlightenment, awakening, or Christ consciousness, not as an exclusive achievement for the special few, but as the natural unfoldment of human potential. The light body is not something you attain through effort, but something you allow through surrender to your own deepest nature. Yet the activation of the light body isn't the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new mode of existence, one where evolution continues not through struggle, but through increasingly refined resonance with higher octaves of consciousness. As your light body stabilizes, you naturally begin to serve as a bridge between dimensions of awareness, helping to anchor higher frequencies into the collective field. This service isn't something you decide to do, it's what you become. Your mere presence begins to catalyze awakening in others, not through proselytizing or teaching, though these may occur, but through the silent transmission of your frequency. You become a living invitation to transformation, simply by being authentically who you are. The birth of the light body represents the fulfillment of humanity's deepest potential, to be fully divine and fully human simultaneously, to experience the boundless freedom of infinite consciousness while embracing the sacred limitations of embodied existence. It is the realization that you are not just a physical being having occasional spiritual experiences, but a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. This realization doesn't separate you from humanity, but connects you more deeply to the human journey. As your light body activates, you discover that your purpose isn't to transcend the world, but to transform it through your presence, to help birth a new earth that reflects the same luminous awareness that you've discovered within yourself. If these teachings have resonated with your soul's journey, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Your spiritual breakthrough is a continuous unfolding, and each new video serves as a beacon on your path. Share your experiences in the comments below. Where are you in this process of soul expansion? Are you feeling the saturation point, experiencing the collapse of old identities, or perhaps witnessing the birth of your light body? Your story may be exactly what another seeker needs to hear today. Remember, we're all walking this path together. Subscribe now to continue this sacred exploration of consciousness, and let your comment be part of our collective wisdom.